One. Good evening, everybody, and welcome. I'm Bill Maley, your Brighton Town Supervisor, and I appreciate all of you joining us for our April 22nd Town Board meeting. This is our third meeting that we are doing by Zoom, and I know a lot of you are watching us on cable channel 1303 or on our our YouTube live stream. And we really appreciate that. This meeting is being held on Zoom in compliance with Governor Cuomo's executive order that modifies some of the provisions of the state open meetings law to enable local government bodies to meet and continue to do business in a way that would be open and accessible to the public despite the COVID-19 pandemic. We are continuing to do that every meeting, even in these Zoom meetings, holding an open forum for the public to participate. We'll get that started in a little bit. But as always, the phone number to call in to participate in the open forum will be 303-3060. Someone will take your call and pass your questions or comments on to me. Some of the other things we're trying to do to make sure our meetings continue to be as accessible as possible. You see our ASL sign language interpreters. We always make our meetings accessible to our deaf and hard of hearing community. Tonight, two of our regulars, Susan Pence and Melissa Lanty, are doing the interpreting. Thank you very much to both of you. We're going to do it again tonight. Every night during this pandemic, every town board meeting during this pandemic, we're going to continue to do your business, the people's business, here on Zoom, accessible to everyone. I want to start tonight's meeting, again, as we regularly do, with a pledge to the flag. And I will just turn to a pledge flag right here in my office. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation. We were joking before the meeting got started. I was all ready to read the usual emergency announcement about what to do if the emergency alarm system goes off here in the building. And then I realized you're not here in the building. So we'll skip that, but we will give our regular announcement from Spectrum. Occasionally, although we're being broadcast live on Spectrum, there can be technical difficulties. If you're having trouble viewing this transmission on Spectrum, cable 1303, or hearing it, please call Spectrum, and their number is 756-5000. That's 756-5000. Not only is this a town board meeting night, but it's an important day in the history of the United States. Today is the 50th anniversary of the first Earth Day, held on April 22nd, 1970. I'm old enough to still have an Earth Day button that I got in Ann Arbor, Michigan, close to where I grew up, from that year. But tonight we have a proclamation of the town board recognizing Earth Day. And again, because we're not all here together, I have signed this proclamation, but I did so on behalf of all of my colleagues who are with us tonight. Council members Jason DePonzio, Chris Warner, Robin Wilt, and Christine Corrado. But let me read this proclamation. Whereas today marks 50 years since the first Earth Day sparked the passage of the United States Clean Air, Clean Water, and Endangered Species Acts, and the creation of the Environmental Protection Agency. Whereas on this day in 1970, 20 million Americans, 10% of the US population at the time, took to the streets on college campuses and hundreds of cities to protest environmental ignorance and demand a new way forward for our planet. Whereas climate change represents the biggest challenge to the future of humanity and the life support systems that make our world habitable, the urgency has never been greater. The stakes have never been higher to demand renewed commitment to sustainability. And whereas, as the world shuts down in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic, we are given glimpses of how life with altered human priorities visibly improves air quality as smog-ridden cities across the globe experience cleaner skies and animals prosper in closed national parks. Whereas as we unite across nations to quell this pandemic, so too can we unite to mitigate climate change with thoughtful collective action. Whereas the town of Brighton remains deeply committed to a healthy environment, having earned bronze certification as a New York State climate smart community, partnering with the city of Rochester to complete the Highland Crossing Trail, working with the towns of Irondequoit and Pittsford and the village of Pittsford to provide 100% renewable electricity to our residents through community choice aggregation coming soon, and developing our own climate action plan. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, William W. Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and on behalf of all the members of our Town Council, do hereby declare April 22, 2020 as Earth Day in the town of Brighton, and ask that each of us embrace the power of our community, working together in the face of hardship to create a healthier tomorrow. And it's been signed by me, but it's been signed in spirit, I know, by each of my colleagues on the town board this 22nd day of April in the year 2020. And here is our proclamation this evening. Just a brief update. Of course, Town Hall remains closed to the public. Our library remains closed to the public. And many town activities, as well as, of course, activities all around the community, have been canceled or postponed. But I want to make clear to the public that in many ways, we continue to operate the town of Brighton, providing services to our residents. The police department continues its work protecting the community 24/7. You'll hear from Chief of Police David Cathaldi shortly, giving a brief summary of the police department's 2019 annual report. The highway department is working at half staffing levels in order to comply with the governor's executive order. Most of our employees in the highway department are working every other week, one person per vehicle in the same vehicle all week for their safety and for yours. An update on what they're doing. Some of them right now are doing road repairs, continuing to fix potholes and other road damage from the winter, as we do every year, but also preparing the streets that will be getting chip sealed a little bit later this spring. Earlier this week, they finished one of our other essential spring tasks each year, working with our tree contractor to remove and then clean up after dangerous conditions in trees along town highways. Over the course of the winter and windstorms, you get branches partially down or that are completely down but have gotten hung up. We want to get those out of our trees so they don't fall in the next windstorm, potentially causing property damage or worse. We have now resumed picking up containerized debris, containerized lawn and garden debris, whether you have it in trash cans or in those big brown paper bags that you can get at your hardware store or at some of the big box stores. We're doing that, however, with less than a full crew. We know it's going to take longer than it normally would. And again, we're doing that because we do have less than a full crew working, complying with the governor's orders and staying safe. Because the governor's executive orders prohibit us from having all of our crews working at any one time, we have postponed bulk debris pickup. We do anticipate, however, resuming that pickup later in the spring. As many of you have probably experienced, to a certain extent, we're all living day by day, not only in dealing with the virus itself, but also in making sure we're complying with the executive orders, and those orders are often issued, really almost every day. I get it. I know how hard and how frustrating it is to see those piles of debris in your front yard. And I want to assure you that we are going to be doing that work. I appreciate the patience that the overwhelming majority of you have shown. We have heard from some of you, and that's okay. I want to make sure you all know we know they're out there. Our crews know they're out there. And that is part of the work that we're going to be doing. Understanding that these times are challenging times for all of us and can really impact everybody's ability to live that normal life. Now, speaking of challenging, there's always people in Brighton on good days and on tough days like these that go above and beyond. 2 weeks ago at our last Zoom meeting, I thanked a few Brighton residents for some of the things they've done during the outbreak. And I want to make that a regular feature of these Zoom meetings. Last time I talked about medical professionals, doctors, nurses. We all know how important their work is on the front lines, and we're grateful for them. But there are many others that are working essential jobs. Frankly, a lot of them, especially in service industries. They're keeping us fed. They're ensuring that our shelves are stocked in the stores that are open, that medicines are available in the drugstores. And otherwise, they're performing what have come to be known as essential services. Tonight, I want to say thank you to someone I don't know. I don't know her name, but I want to say thank you. Last night, I had to pick something up at Walgreens. I was wearing a mask. I saw the sign on the door that asked everyone to wear a mask before they entered the store. And of course, I had mine on. I picked up the one item I needed, got in line, 6 feet more actually, behind the only other customer. And the cashier was helping check that person out. Of course, the cashier is wearing a mask. There's a plexiglass guard, but she's coming into contact with person after person. I have no idea how many people are going through that store these days, but clearly people are. They sell important items. And I saw a couple people come in, kind of exuberantly. Neither one of them was wearing a mask. And I saw the cashier in the middle of her job, in the middle of checking the person out in front of me. Look at that person. Look at the people who had just come in, not wearing masks, knowing what the sign on the door said, and wondering what to do, knowing that the regular part of her job was to check out the customer in front of her, but also knowing that these folks had come in without masks on, putting, frankly, all of us potentially in harm's way. Now, folks, please don't make the people who are working essential jobs, like the cashier at Walgreens last night, make a tough job even tougher. Please show respect for the people around you. Masks are to protect other people, not yourself. So it's not a matter of not wanting to wear it. It's a matter of being selfish. You're protecting the people that you come in contact with. When you go out, Mask up if you have to go out. If you don't, please don't. But if you do, mask up. Remain following those social distancing rules. We're not done with this yet. Frankly, today, the announcement in Monroe County of the number of new deaths was significantly higher than it has been in the last couple days. We've got work to do, all of us. And as the county executive reminds us every day, and Dr. Mendoza, the work we do today is going to mean what those numbers look like in a week, in 10 days, in 2 weeks. So please, help us out. And to the cashier who was just trying to do her job, which COVID-19 has made a lot tougher, and to everybody else around town, stocking the shelves at Tops, cutting the meat at Ours Market, or cleaning our buildings, please make their job easier. And I say to each one of them, thank you. Okay, I want to move on, and can I have a motion, please? Oh, I'm sorry, we're going to go to the open forum. Again, if there's anyone out there who would like to comment or ask a question during the open forum, it can be about something that is or isn't on the agenda. Please feel free to call in. We do have someone, forgive me, I just want to admit that the print is very fine. I really hesitate to even raise this question, but let me make it very clear, and we're going to talk a little bit more later. To the person calling in and everybody, no, the town of Brighton is not and will not consider or declare bankruptcy. So let me just put that notion to rest, period. Is there anyone else that has a question or a comment for the town? If not, then we will move on. But I want to let that gentleman know that I will be in a moment talking a little bit more about the economic straits, not only that our households find themselves in, our great local businesses in Brighton find themselves in, but I am going to talk a little bit because I think, it's a comment on a letter that I did receive, and it's part of the agenda. I do want to talk about that. It's an important topic. But we'll move on. And Chris, can I have a motion to approve the agenda for tonight? I need you to unmute.
Bill, I move that the agenda be approved.
Second. Thank you, Jason. That was the motion by Councilmember Warner, seconded by Councilmember DePonzio. Any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Malin?
Aye. We have no public hearings tonight, so I do want to move on directly to communications. Can I have a motion to receive and file our communications this evening?
So moved.
Second.
By Robin Wilt.
And the motion was made by Christine?
Yes.
Okay. The first item of communication we have tonight is something prepared annually, the annual report of the Brighton Police Department. Normally, the chief and his team make quite a presentation, but that really doesn't work as well in this format. But Chief, if you want to talk just a minute or two about the annual report and really anything else relevant to our residents as you continue to do your work during the COVID-19 outbreak.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. As you know, I am in weekly contact with my fellow chiefs around Monroe County.
The numbers, as you know and have been reported widely, are going in the right direction. There's a lot of talk now about the deconstruction phase, demobilization phase of activities, which is very encouraging. But as you said earlier, it's not something where we can take our foot off the gas. We still need to maintain the social distancing and do all those things that Dr. Mendoza talks about daily. On to the annual report. First of all, this will be up on the Town of Brighton's website tomorrow by the close of business. You can find it at townofbrighton.org and look under the police department icon, and it will be there for you to look at in further detail. A few of the highlights for the annual report. On page 7, you'll notice that there was approximately a 14% increase in calls for service this year as compared to last. Our calls for service are broken down into both self-initiated and response calls for service. This year they totaled 57,890 calls. Again, that is a 14% increase, which equates to about 7,500 calls for service. I hate to call it a headline for the report, but I think it attracts the most attention. Looking on page 9, there was a slight increase in the overall amount of crimes reported to the town of Brighton, about a 7.6% increase. And I think you need to keep that into perspective as there were 125 more crimes than last year. Two of the categories that I track quite keenly, there was a 5% increase in larceny complaints, and the other one, there's a 34% increase in burglary complaints. And the burglary complaints especially, that's 23 more than last year. We have been going, for the past 5 years, it's been declining. So in 2019, with that increase, we'll be monitoring that much closer in 2020. If you go to page 14, I know it's a concern at every public safety committee meeting, and it's been a concern since I've been a police officer here in Brighton. It's traffic safety. As you know, just 2 months into my term as chief of police, we had a very tragic accident on Elmwood Avenue. So it's something that we will continue to track and continue to improve upon the department. In 2019, members of the Brighton Police Department issued 5,267 traffic tickets. That's a 16% increase, which equates to about 715 more tickets than last year in 2018. And I'll give credit where credit's due. Mark Henderson, before he left, a few months before he left, we reinstituted a traffic enforcement car. The sole responsibility of that officer is to do nothing but enforce the vehicle and traffic law offenses throughout the town of Brighton. Any of the hotspots that we identify, we can direct our resources to that spot, and rather than pull someone from the patrol force, we have a dedicated officer that can go to that area and address that concern. On page 14, you'll see that we made 30 more DWI arrests than last year in 2018, which represents about a 16% increase. Again, we refocused our efforts with a dedicated DWI traffic car. This officer in particular has a higher level of training. He's a drug recognition expert. So our DWIs increased from 115 to 145. So I think we're going in the right direction. And keep in mind that that also will equate back to what I mentioned earlier in the overall increase of crime. When DWIs go up, when we rededicate our efforts, we get newer officers, better trained officers in those positions that can account for an increase in crime. That's about all that I have for the special report, for the yearly report. If anybody has any questions where I can explain anything to in more detail, I'd be more than happy to, either here or offline. Again, it'll be up on the Town of Brighton's website tomorrow by the close of business.
Thank you very much, Chief. I appreciate your professionalism and obviously appreciate the many years of having worked with your great predecessor, Chief Mark Henderson. We have an outstanding police department, second to none, and the statistics show just how hard you all work and the impact for the community. We see it every day. So thank you to all of the men and women of the Brighton Police Department for their work.
Thank you.
The next item of communication is from Mr. Tim Troush on Indian Springs Lane. And Mr. Troush, frankly, is someone, who hasn't always thought we were doing the best job. He's someone that hasn't always agreed with all of us. And I imagine he's watching right now, and I don't think he would disagree with that. But I think he's written a letter that's in your packets tonight. That's an important letter. And I want to really get to what is sort of at the heart of his letter, which is a question. And I want to spend a couple minutes addressing it. He writes, I want to ask you, Mr. Maley, and the town board to publicly discuss what lies ahead for our town. We know there must and will be changes. The pandemic has medically and socially affected all of us in the past months. I believe economically we must prepare for the worst and hope for the best, just as we did weeks ago as we prepared to take on this monster called COVID-19. Now, please prepare us for what lies ahead economically. And I want to do that both in terms of what lies ahead of us for the community, but for the town. Obviously, we know all too well that many of our households are struggling with people who have been laid off or whose hours have been severely cut back. You're at home, you have family members living in different circumstances, and that can place a terrible burden on a household's finances. And of course, as household finances become challenged, it can really uproot the whole dynamic of a household. And as we've talked in the past, there are many agencies. The Brighton Food Cupboard, for one, is a group that I know is facing unprecedented need right now. The domestic violence organizations in our community, like the Willow Domestic Violence Center, are all vitally important to us. Our small businesses, our businesses on Monroe Avenue and in other parts of the town, we know they're hurting. Kudos to the people who are able to support those businesses. Shopping locally is always important, but it's never been more important than it is right now. These are our friends, our neighbors. They're the people that we come in and say hi to when we walk in their stores. Some of them can't open now. Some of them are absolutely prohibited based on the governor's executive orders. Some of them are open, whether they're restaurants providing takeout service or delivery service, or grocery stores, supermarkets like Tops and Ours Market I mentioned both earlier, other sorts of businesses that can operate. But we know that even though you may be operating, these conditions make it extra difficult, not only from an economic point of view, but also from a health point of view. Someone is there doing business. Someone is there with a mask, interacting with people or maybe other employees, and doing, as I said earlier, a tough job that's only been made tougher. And the best way we can all support those folks is when we possibly can, supporting them. But I think Mr. Troush really wanted to talk about the financial, the economic future for the town of Brighton. And that's why I mentioned that, that earlier comment during the open forum. But we are facing unprecedented economic challenges. We know that this year, two of our largest revenue sources, sales taxes and mortgage recording taxes, are going to fall off a cliff. Both of them are going to be down. I think we pragmatically have to expect easily by double digits in the current quarter and likely for the year as a whole. We don't know what the future brings for property taxes. To a certain extent, property taxes are based on a lag. They're based on valuations that were effective prior to the coronavirus outbreak. But even after the worst of the outbreak passes, and hopefully, that it passes altogether, we will continue to face impacts from property tax losses, both because people are challenged to pay their taxes, but also we understand that some property owners whose properties may have become vacant for a period of time because businesses have been put out of business by the virus are going to ask for a reduction in their assessed valuation, which is the basis for fairly and equitably taxing real estate in the state of New York. So we know that we're going to face challenges. But let me say again, and I really, part of me just hates to even say the word, but no, the town of Brighton, we are proud. You hear us talk every year about the fiscal strength of the town in the many ways that it's been demonstrated by our Moody's bond rating, AA2, one of the highest in New York, by the auditor's report that certifies our books every year, by the comptroller's ranking of fiscal stress that finds that the town of Brighton has not been in fiscal stress. So all of those things are tangible and objective indicators that the financial strength of Brighton has always been very strong. This is a different world today. And I really need to talk a little bit about the federal disaster relief legislation that has happened to date, what it has and hasn't done. You've heard about literally trillions, somewhere in the neighborhood of $2 trillion that has, in the last go-round, the CARES Act, gone to various programs like small business loans. Unfortunately, you saw that pool of money depleted literally in a matter of days, underscoring just how important the plight of small businesses is in Brighton, in New York, and in the country as a whole. In those billions and yes, even trillions of dollars, however, has been no relief for local municipalities with a population of less than 500,000. And obviously Brighton has a population of less than 500,000. Every town except two in the state of New York has a population less than 500,000. We have gotten, for all practical purposes, nothing, and the one exception being we will have the opportunity to apply for FEMA relief, and the CARES Act that was passed, at least by the Senate this week, it eliminates any requirement that the state or the local municipality pay a share of that reimbursement. Will pay the full 100% reimbursement. But our problem isn't that we have to spend more money. In fact, we're spending less money. We have had to furlough a number of our employees, particularly part-time employees. That has reduced our expenses. The lights aren't on. The building isn't heated the same way. We're not, in a number of ways, some of the expenses that are normally there aren't there now. Yes, we've had to make some purchases, laptops, and other things based on the virus. But for the most part, the problem is not the large expenses that we've incurred. Frankly, those have been incurred at higher level of government by the state, by the county of Monroe. They need to be reimbursed, and they will be reimbursed. Our problem, as I mentioned earlier, is that our revenues are going to be drastically reduced. You may have heard about some wrangling over this latest bill that the Senate has now passed and the House is going to pass on tomorrow. And you probably shook your head and thought, there they go again down in Washington, just arguing about who knows what. Let me tell you what they were arguing about. Because one side was right, and one side, frankly, missed the boat. They were arguing about funding for law enforcement, for local law enforcement, for police. They were arguing about funding for the people who do plow the roads, pick up debris. They were arguing about money for our kids, for our school districts, our Brighton Central School District, and the other 4 school districts that serve the town of Brighton, not to mention the other school districts that serve our area. So no, this wrangling down in Washington was not about just politics as usual. This was about a crisis that is most unusual. And I'm sad to report that the majority in the Senate refused to grant any funding for your school kids, any funding for your police officers here in Brighton. None. None. It was eliminated. The majority in the Senate wouldn't do a deal without that. And you may have seen that as soon as the Senate passed it, the Senate Majority Leader said, no, we're not going to do any more. We're not going to give any money to local municipalities. We're not going to do it. Even the President had tweeted how important it was to support local government, local police officers, local teachers. But for whatever reason, the Senate majority drew a line in the sand and said, we don't want to fund cops. We don't want to fund teachers. Let me tell you, Brighton, they were wrong. Tonight, one of the items on our agenda is to write a letter of support for funding, for teachers, for police officers, for essential town services. Because even with the cutbacks that we have made up till now, if we do not get this kind of disaster relief that was included by the other side in trying to get a bill passed through the Senate that would recognize the needs of local government, the government that is closest to the people, the magnitude of the service cuts and, frankly, some very difficult personnel decisions that we're going to have to make are going to be very real and could come very quickly. Because the state wasn't included in funding. When the state budget was passed earlier this month, they included 3 special look-backs. 3 times during these next 12 months, state government is going to look back and see how they're doing and how the revenues are coming in. And can they afford the budget that they had already passed? One of those look-backs is going to come on April 30th, the end of this month. And the governor yesterday, before he went down to D.C. to talk to the president, and I know this is one of the things they talked about, anticipated that aid to local municipalities, and by the way, that's aid that hasn't gone up in years, it's been flat for years, could be cut by 20%. And not just to the town, but to our school districts as well. So this reverberates at every level of government. And you know the old saying about it flowing downhill. Well, unfortunately, when it comes to government, your local governments, the people, the government that is closest to you, the people that you see driving down the street in those big green trucks plowing the snow, or in those white vehicles with the police department logo on them, that's the government that's closest to you. That's the government that provides the services that you need every single day. So, Mr. Trausch, what is ahead of us for us economically, and you were astute to know that we don't know all the answers, and that we do have to prepare for the worst and hope for, but more than hope for, work for the best. That's one of the things we're going to be doing tonight, is working for the best. This town board, the association that the town is a part of and that I'm a member, that I'm a vice president of, the State Association of Towns, all of us, the State Council of Mayors, all of us are going to be advocating. And I do want to thank Senator Schumer, Senator Gillibrand, and Congressmember Morelli. Each one of them was on the right side of that debate. Each one of them was on the right side, arguing for funding for local schools, funding for local government. So I want to thank each one of them. But I want to say again, and this letter is going out to the three of them, but we all need to make the message loud and clear about just how important local government and local schools are to this community and to every community in the area. I know that was a little bit of a rant. It probably didn't touch on all the questions that you had, Mr. Troush, but I really do thank you for your letter. As I said before, we haven't always agreed, but take a look at his letter. He makes an awful lot of very important, good points. Maintain services at the highest possible level, recognizing that the future, that crystal ball, that magic 8 ball that we used to have, is looking a little murky right now. So if you're so inclined as we are, please let Senator Gillibrand, Senator Schumer, Congressmember Morelli, or if you're watching from someplace else, your own federal representatives know that you support local government, that you support local schools, that you expect the federal government to be a part of making our success as a community possible. Okay. I mentioned Senator Schumer, and also in here is correspondence from Chris Zeltman, who is the regional director of Senator Schumer's local office here in Rochester. Mr. Zeltman attached some items of communication relating to the budget negotiations, or I should say the relief legislation negotiations that now have wrapped up for this round. And he also gave an indication that in that legislation, the town of Brighton would have received well over $1 million in vital funding from the federal government. And I know Chris, and I've been in contact with Sarah Clark, who is the regional director, the same position, the regional director of the Rochester office for Senator Gillibrand. I've spoken with Congressmember Morelli. He knows, because he's heard from a lot of people just beyond me, as have all of those folks, just how important it is. But that communication was conveying Senator Schumer's support of direct COVID funding for municipalities. And Chris and Senator Schumer, we appreciate that support. Last item of communication we have is from Sue Hughes Smith. I got a letter from someone else today asking, well, I know you were going to do this thing with, renewable energy, but you probably had to stop because of COVID. Nope. Just as we talked about Earth Day, and this is a good day to give an update on where we are on our renewable power initiative, working with the towns of Irondequoit and Pittsford and the village of Pittsford. We are going forward. We have a proposed energy supply agreement that the attorneys for the 4 municipalities are renewing. Each of the towns and the 3 towns in the village have signed contracts with an energy management firm, Jewel Assets, who will be managing this whole program for us. It may slow us down a little bit because we're not able to meet in person and do some of the things in person that we would like to do, particularly making sure that members of the community are aware of the significance, the benefits of the program. But we are moving forward, and I still expect if, and energy markets, as anybody following, have been in a kind of a frenzy, as so many other things have now, but assuming that we're able to get that 100% renewable energy, I still expect that before the end of the year, we will be in a position to move forward with renewable energy for our communities, which will be probably the most significant thing anybody has ever done around here in terms of moving the needle on renewable energy, moving the needle on sustainability, and what better day to update and celebrate that than Earth Day. Okay, those are the items of communication, and I believe I know we had a motion, and I believe we voted on that motion. Am I right? No, we did not. Okay, it was a motion made by Christine, seconded by Robin. Does anybody have any further comments on the communication? And if not, Dan, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember DeBonju? Aye. Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye, I talked so long I had forgotten whether we voted. Moving on to committee reports, and again, as we noted last time, all of the 4 town board committees meetings are currently in hiatus, but I want to give the chairs of each of those committees an opportunity to briefly talk about any items of importance within their bailiwick. So we'll start with you, Robin, the Community Services Committee.
Thank you, Bill. As you mentioned, the Community Services Committee has not met since the last town board meeting. I do have some updates from our department heads on some ongoing agenda items. An update to our recreation department. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic and uncertainty of our ability to safely return to normal activities, the recreation department has had to make the difficult decision to delay the start of our summer program registrations, including registration to our highly anticipated playground camp. The department will communicate new registration start dates as soon as we feel confident in the ability to commit to those dates. So we're asking members of the public to please not mail in any registration forms, as they will be returned to you. On the other hand, the Recreation Department is happy to report that although our in-person on location classes are all canceled, our online offering of programs keeps growing. Online programs are available now for youth and adults and include Mad Science Junior, Babysitters Training, voiceovers, and Gardening with a Pro. More online activities will be added as they do become available. You can stay up to date with the recreation announcements on our website at www.townofbrighton.org/rec or on our Facebook page, which is at facebook.com/BrightonRecreation. We have an unfortunate update regarding our Town of Brighton pharmaceutical take-back, clean sweep, and electronics recycling and secure document shredding events. Due to the extension of Governor Cuomo's pause executive order and the Brighton Town Supervisor's state of emergency declaration, the Town of Brighton has had to cancel the pharmaceutical take-back event scheduled for April 25th, our annual clean sweep scheduled for May 9th, and our semi-annual electronics recycling and secure document shredding event that was scheduled for May 16th. We issued a a public release of that announcement, I think just yesterday. But despite having to cancel these environmentally focused community events, we want to assure everyone that the town remains committed to sustainability, continuing to work on our important projects such as developing the Climate Action Plan, and as Bill mentioned, making progress towards implementing community choice aggregation. An update to our Parks Department, town parks and trails continue to remain open. However, in order to protect the public and promote social distancing measures, the following policies are currently effective. Firstly, all playgrounds, courts, athletic fields, and batting cages are hereby closed to the public. All lodges, restrooms, and pavilions will remain closed to the public. All facility reservations booked through May 18th will be canceled and fully refunded. Future facility reservations, including those for athletic fields, are not being accepted at this time. Pedestrian use of park grounds and trails is still permitted with the provision that you are mindful of other park users, utilize a mask or face covering as advised, and practice physical distancing of at least 6 feet from another person. As always, dogs must be kept on leash in all Town of Brighton parks. We have apologized for the inconvenience of these new policies, but we appreciate your cooperation as we continue to work together to flatten the COVID-19 curve. And I just want to issue one more reminder that Corbett's Glen is a carry-in, carry-out park, and town code does require dogs to be on a leash at all time in Town of Brighton parks. So thank you for observing those regulations and protocols. Our next regularly scheduled meeting of the Community Services Committee will be on Wednesday, March 20th, pending uplifting of the social distancing orders, so please do stay tuned. As always, members of the public are welcome to attend in the event that we do have that meeting.
Thanks, Rhonda. May 20th, I think you
May
said. March.
20th, did I say, I'm sorry, May 20th.
Thank you for that. It's funny, we're so used to everybody sitting around the table, and the order is always very clear. But I'm just we'll mix it up tonight since I forget where you all sit when we're not in a Zoom world. Jason, the Finance Committee.
Yes. Bill, the Finance and Administrative Services Committee was supposed to meet on Tuesday, April 14th. However, that meeting was canceled. Our next regularly scheduled meeting was to be held on May 5th, but since that falls still within the New York on pause order, that meeting will also be canceled. Hopefully soon we'll be able to resume our regular meetings. And that's all I have.
I do want to note that in Jason's capacity as chair of the Finance Committee, at each one of these meetings, he reviews a whole listing of claims that the town board as a whole has to approve. He drills down into those. And that activity, even though the committee doesn't meet, Jason still engages in that review, and as always, we'll be asking you to approve those claims in just a minute. Thank you, Jason, for that report. Christine, Public Safety.
Thank you, Bill. Public Safety, like all the other committees, is not meeting in person. We were to have met on April 14th, but our public safety heads were busy keeping the community safe, and we were staying out of town hall, keeping the community safe. I do have short updates, though, from the agencies. I'm in regular communication with them. Brighton Volunteer Ambulance noted that call volume has dropped about 25% during the COVID crisis. That is somewhat indicative of people being concerned about going into the emergency department for matters other than COVID-19. And they reiterate that you still, if you find yourself in need of emergency assistance, it behooves you to call 911 to seek the care that you need. regardless of concerns about ending up in the emergency department. The hospitals have that covered, and our public safety agencies have that covered. Please call for help if you need it. CBA also reiterates that they adopted the universal masking policy early. They are being attentive to disinfecting vehicles and social distancing as much as possible amongst personnel. So they are taking frontline safety quite seriously. Brighton Fire Department also has adjusted some of their practices on responses based on recommendations of the medical director. They are, the balance of medical responses are tipping heavily towards Brighton Volunteer Ambulance to reduce exposure to public safety officers across the board. And they are working to maintain social distancing on the scene, where you might have seen 2 firefighters attending to a matter on a working scene. Instead, they are keeping a greater distance for everyone's safety. And they are trainings for firefighters are on hold for the duration, but they are continuing with recruiting with online presentations. More information can be found at the Brighton Fire Department website. Brighton Police Department, you heard the thorough update on 2019 from Chief Capaldi earlier this evening, but he also notes that he participates regularly in, I believe it's bi-weekly calls with the other public safety officials in the region, so Brighton is not acting on its own. It is staying on top of the crisis issues in an integrated manner with the rest of the region. Chief Capaldi also noted that domestic violence calls during this difficult time are ticking upwards. And I'd like to reiterate that if you find yourself while you're in lockdown, in quarantine, in close quarters with family who can get on one another's nerves, even in the best of circumstances, but it can become more extreme under these unusual circumstances, there are resources. It's not just a matter of calling 911. You can also count on the support from Willow Domestic Violence Center. There are 2 24-hour hotlines. One is a voice line, 585-222-SAFE, S-A-F-E. You can also text if that's your preferred way of communicating. And that text number, also 24 hours, is 585-348-SAFE, or S-A-F-E. And that is all from public safety at this point. The next regularly scheduled meeting is May 12th, but I believe that we will not be meeting face-to-face at that point. If there are matters of public safety that the community would like brought to the attention of any of the agencies or town government, you can be in contact with any of the members of the committee. That information is online at townofbrighton.org/public safety committee. You can contact any one of the members and we will bring the matters to the attention of the appropriate agencies. And that is all.
Thanks, Christine. Chris, Public Works.
Public Works next meeting is slated for May 5, but as the other committees have announced that we will not be holding that meeting in person. If the public has any issues that should be brought to the attention of the Public Works Department of the nature of emergencies, whether it's sewer or potholes or any kind of dangerous situations, please contact the Public Works Department, Commissioner Mike Guyon, or myself for that matter, or any member of the town board, and we will pass that along for immediate attention. But otherwise, Bill has already given us where we stand in the general public services that are being provided, that we are now doing alternate weeks for all of our employees to keep them as safe as possible during this emergency, while at the same time providing our basic public works services. Mike, do you have anything to add at all? Mike Guyon?
Chris, I think you covered it well. we're out there, we're doing the best we can with our short crews, and we're gonna stick with the essential services for the most part and keep everybody working and safe.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, moving on to new business. Jason, reading and approval of claims.
Yes, Bill, earlier today, I reviewed claims totaling $574,152.33. Notable claims include to CDWG Computer Center in the amount of $13,835.64 for the purchase of a server room computer equipment as part of the approved 2020-2022 CIP. Also to Fisher Associates in the amount of $91,696.38 for construction inspection services for the Highland Canal Crossing Trail project. Also to Insight Architecture in the amount of $15,932.48 for architectural design of Phase 2 of the Brighton Farmers Market project, and to Linstar Inc. in the amount of $17,429.71 for the card access system base amount for the police department area and the public safety wing, to M&T Bank in the amount of $12,961 for payment of principal only for the Western Drive sewer bonds, and finally to United Uniforms in the amount of $28,089.60 for purchase of bulletproof vests for the town of Brighton police officers, also in accordance with our approved CIP. The claims all appear to be in order, and I move that they be approved.
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Motion by Jason, seconded by Chris. Any comments, questions on any of those? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Next matter, Robin?
Thanks, Bill. The next matter seeks the acceptance of a Climate Smart Communities grant totaling $40,000 to fund a portion of the cost to develop a climate action plan for the, the state assistance contract for said grant, and approve any related amendments to the 2020 budget. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
That was you, Chris? Chris Werner?
Nope, that was
Oh,
me.
Jason, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? This is one of two grants that we received last year through the Regional Economic Development Council Consolidated Funding Application Grant Program. We were very pleased to receive those, and we have a similar request coming up after this one. Two sustainable, important projects, this one in particular as a climate smart community, as is the next one. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Chris, the next item, the second of these two grants.
Yes, the next item is to accept a Climate Smart Community Grant totaling $58,290 to fund a portion of the cost of consultant services to prepare the Rochester Multiversity Concept Master Plan and authorize the supervisor to sign the state assistance contract for that grant and approve any related amendments to the 2020 budget. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Again, this is the second of those two grants. The Rochester Multiversity Concept is one that has its roots in our Envision Brighton 2028 comprehensive plan that was approved by the town board, looking to develop a multimodal trail system in West Brighton, connecting our educational institutions, the University of Rochester, Rochester Institute of Technology, and MCC. And this grant will provide the lion's share of the cost of the consultant services that we will need to prepare a plan, prepare the concept for this project, which we then hope will be available for funding for the actual construction work. But we needed to get this first step done, and we're very pleased that we did. We have the motion and the second. Further discussion at all? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Jason?
Yes, the next matter seeks to approve a bid award to Bartlett Tree Experts in an amount not to exceed $39,848.60 for treatment of emerald ash borer, and authorize the supervisor to execute necessary change orders not to exceed 10% of the contract award. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second, Robin Wilt.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Jason. This is an ongoing project. We've talked about it before. We made the decision many years ago that we would engage in an emerald ash borer containment program for our street trees along town streets and along the heavily traveled Brickyard Trail, which has quite a number of ash trees along it. People ask me all the time, what are those trees with those little medallions in the bark? Those are ash trees along the trail, and one walk along the trail will show you just how many there are. But we have ash trees throughout the town. Some areas, West Brighton, some of our other neighborhoods, Cobb, Hemingway, some of those areas particularly have large numbers of ash trees. When they're along our streets and along that trail, we've made the decision to treat them, to keep them alive and beautiful. And this is this year's installment of doing that. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Chris?
The next item is to authorize the issuance of an RFP, or request for proposal, for the evaluation of penetrations through the Operations Center Fuel Island and the UST tank top sumps. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Thank you. This is something that had been discussed somewhat earlier, but Mike, do you want to just talk real quickly about the importance of this?
Sure, Bill. We had first talked about this during our CIP last year. We had a firm go in and do some visual inspections of the seals. The seals were suspect. We were trying to develop a cost estimate. So what we're trying to do here is hire a consultant, a professional who has done this work before, to provide us a cost estimate so we can get an accurate cost for future CIP projects.
Thanks, Mike. Discussion, anything further? Hearing none, we have the motion and a second. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. The next three items, each one of them, we're setting a public hearing for local laws that we intend will be temporary. What we're doing here during the course of the last couple of weeks, pursuant to the declaration of emergency that was first issued on March 16th, under the executive law of the state of New York, I have issued a series of emergency orders. Some of them are actually new substantive orders, and some of them have been essentially renewals of existing orders. And I've had to do that because by law, under that state executive law, emergency orders issued by a town supervisor are only good for 5 days. So what we want to do is consider 3 local laws, one of which will address the parking issues in the vicinity of Corbett's Glen, which was the subject of our first emergency order. The second one is to continue the temporary ban on garage sales in the town of Brighton, which was also part of that first emergency order. And third is a law that will again temporarily remove certain restrictions under the town code on parking camper trailers and recreational vehicles in people's backyards and driveways to allow temporarily during the COVID emergency people to self-quarantine from family members, but still be close at home by parking one of those vehicles in their driveway. So we're going to do those 3 public hearings. And Christine, I will ask you to make the motion on the first one.
Happily. The next matter, on the matter regarding setting a public hearing for proposed temporary amendment to Chapter 185 of the Town Code to prohibit parking on certain streets near Corbett's Glen Nature Park and in the Corbett's Glen Nature Park parking lot due to the COVID-19 pandemic, I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second, Robin Wilt.
And that resolution and each of the resolutions will be setting a public hearing on the local law for our next town board meeting, which is May 12th?
13.
13th, sorry. So we have a motion and a second on that. And in the meantime, we will continue this 5-day renewal process. But in any event, we have motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Thank you. The next one, the public hearing on the local law to temporarily continue to prohibit garage sales. Robin, if you would take that one, please.
Sure, Bill. The next matter that seeks to set a public hearing for a proposed temporary amendment to Chapter 76 of the Town Code to prohibit garage sales during or due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Any discussion on this one? Also for May 13th. Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. And Jason, why don't you take the last one?
Yes, the next matter seeks to set a public hearing for proposed temporary amendments to Chapters 201 and 203 of the Town Code, removing certain restrictions on camping trailers and recreational vehicles in residential districts due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Was that a second?
Second.
How about from a real board member?
The real second is from Christine.
Great. Cut it out.
We have a motion and a second. Yeah, I'll just say, a couple people had reached out to me But in particular, and I may have mentioned this publicly, but an organization called RVs for MDs, I think I got that name right, reached out to a medical professional here in town with an offer of a loan of a recreational vehicle so that she could quarantine in place in her driveway. And she was aware that it was illegal to park RVs in the driveway, and would the town consider changing that? And of course, what you saw in first my emergency order and now this proposed local law is yes, during the COVID outbreak, during this emergency, yes, we are, I hope, going to extend that provision so that people can, that woman and others can park those vehicles, stay at home, but do so safely without risking their family. So we have that motion seconded.
Bill, this is Ken.
Yes.
Hi. Yeah, when I first drafted the resolution and the proposed local law, it was to amend both sections 201 and 203. And after discussing the matter further with Ramsey Dainer, we decided that it should properly only be an amendment of section 203. So if I think it was Christine, no, Chris, I don't remember who made the motions now, but if the people who made the motion and seconded the motion would be willing to accept a friendly amendment, that the resolution is to consider a local law only amending section 203 as that proposed local law is in fact in your packet drafted to just amend section 203, then I think that would be appropriate.
Now, just before I do that, can you reference section 2? Do you mean chapter 203?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
It's chapter 203. There's two particular sections. I'm doing this from memory, but I want to say it's 203.11 and 203.13.
Okay. Yeah,
It's written in the proposed local law.
Yeah. Okay.
I wasn't able to pull it up fast enough on my computer as you were going through this.
And I would accept that friendly amendment.
203-1.1B and 203-2.1B. Perfect. Okay, thank you. And Christine, you accept that?
I do as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
So with that, now can we call the roll?
Sorry, lots of clerk things happening around us that I'll talk about in a minute.
Okay.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. I got, it took me a moment to get the joke, but I got it.
I didn't hear it, so I didn't get it.
I think he was referring to your dog.
Oh,
I asked for Frank's vote.
oh, Frank, you got much feedback. Well, Frank will come in if you want.
He seemed very
No.
interested in this matter. so I
Frank
didn't
is
know.
already engaged with us. Frank should have done that during the open forum, Chris. So next time. you can,
I'm bored with it.
All right. I would like to actually, I don't do this very often, but I would like to take the next one and make the motion myself. Earlier, when I was making the presentation about the financial implications, we talked about not only the town, but also other organizations, the State Association of Towns, the State Council of Mayors, the governor himself, all working to make sure that local and state government is given the support that it needs. You know, it's ironic, we've had this back and forth. Is it the state's responsibility? Is it the Fed's responsibility? And to a certain extent, I think the answer is yes. But when Washington points the finger at Albany and says, you got to do this, the governor, I thought, was very appropriate the other day when he said, you know, the president says the buck stops here, but he won't give us any bucks. It's time to give us the bucks so we can continue those services. So this is a letter that I would ask that, it's a resolution that I would ask the board to sign, encouraging our federal delegation, Senators Schumer and Gillibrand, as well as Congressmember Morelli, each of whom has expressed through personal conversation or correspondence their support for aid for local municipalities and local school districts. But we want to get it on record. We all know how important it is to have that record, and the Association of Towns is compiling the municipalities that do that. So I would like to move on this last resolution that would recognize the impact of the pandemic and call upon our federal delegation to support federal funding relating to the coronavirus pandemic. And in the course of that, I will send communications out to each of their offices. And I so move in the form prepared by the attorney for the town.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Mailing.
Aye. Thank you, everybody. Matters of the supervisor, I've talked at length already. I guess I want to repeat that mantra. Stay home. Please stay home. If you can't, if you're an essential worker, if you need to get out and walk on our trails, do it. But please, mask up. And there's been some confusion. You know, people have said, well, what does the governor's order on masks really mean? Does it mean you only put it on in case you get within 6 feet of someone? No. It means if you reasonably can foresee that you might come within 6 feet of someone, put it on if you're going out or if you're in a store. You know, the fact that the frozen food aisle at Tops may not have anybody in it, you might turn the corner and go down the paper plates aisle, and all of a sudden there are 3 people there. Don't be fiddling with your mask. We know you don't want to put your hands to your face. When you go to a store, when you go to the trail, wherever it is you have to go during these times, please mask up and always recognize social distancing. It's been great fun. It's a great laugh. They've raised over $1,500 already for the Brighton Food Cupboard. But like Scott and Lisa Feibush said, stay 1 melee apart, at least 6 feet. All right, that's all I have. Thank you. Matters of the attorney for the town. Ken.
Just one brief update for the board and for the community. I do have scheduled tomorrow a Zoom meeting with the attorneys for the towns of Arundecoit and Pittsford and the village of Pittsford, with the attorney for Jewel to review the proposed form for the electric supply agreement, which is going to be used in conjunction with Jewel's request for proposal. The attorneys had a preliminary conference last week, and we determined that there are some changes to that form agreement that need to be made, and we want to discuss those with Jewel's attorney, principally to make sure that the goal of 100% renewable is in fact achieved. And that's going to be the main focus of our discussion tomorrow. And the rest of it will be a bunch of boring lawyer talk about lawyer provisions and language. But really the focus will mostly be on making sure that when this agreement goes out for proposals to the electric supply companies, they understand that we want 100% renewable as our source of our electricity.
Good. And I know you'll keep us updated on that. It is a very long and very intimidating looking agreement. I saw Councilmember Werner smiling at the notion of a bunch of lawyer kind of stuff. But
The proposed contract is 45 pages long. It's a bit of a read. Yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate all of you putting the time into it. And when we know most of it is really just the fundamental work that is important. Energy procurement is a phenomenally complicated area, but there are some things I know you want to make sure we get right. So thank you for that. Anything else?
Ken, along those lines, the question I have is regarding renewable energy. And many times they focus on non-fossil fuel based, but is nuclear at all considered under that category of renewable?
Chris, my understanding is that the concept of renewable energy would in fact include nuclear energy. So I think we need to be careful when we're talking about the community choice aggregation program and renewable energy, not to confuse the term renewable energy with clean energy. And I think it's important that we keep that in mind. The idea of renewable energy is that we get away from the fossil fuel dependency, and that the electricity that we're using is generated through other means. Solar, hydro, and wind, but also nuclear is part of that renewable network.
Thanks, Ken. If there's nothing further, it sounds like, Dan, you've got some updates for us. Clerk stuff.
Yeah, so during this meeting, if I look a little distracted, I may have been a touch, received word that County Executive Bello had officially extended the due date of the town and county tax cycle until May 31st. So any payments that you were going to send or maybe sent on or before May 31st, and it will maintain that same 3% interest that it applies now. He had already extended that from March through the end of April. It has now gone the 3% to the end of May. That is, however, that's going to be a hard stop. So don't expect another extension beyond the end of May. The tax law, it would require a whole lot more work out of a whole bunch of people to do anything beyond the end of May. Regardless of, hopefully, there won't be a need to extend the pause, or at least the full pause beyond the middle of May, fingers crossed. But that due date is going to be the end of May. So if you're looking at that at some point, it gets in later into May, or anytime before then, really. If you have any questions, concerns about even be able to make that date, please give me a call. I'll be happy to walk through your particular case with you and hopefully be able to explain the full, what it means to pay on different days and when or how you might be able to do it. I'm happy to take time and walk through your particular tax bill with you and explain, because everybody's situation is different. So don't hesitate to reach out.
Well, that's great news. The county executive did have a conference call with all of the town supervisors on Monday, alerting us to that possibility and giving us the opportunity to ask questions, talk about some of the logistics of it. Dan and I had a chance to talk before that conference call, and Dan raised a number of questions about the implementation that we were able to get answered over the course of the phone call. So I'm very, very pleased that the county executive has now taken that action, extending our final due date on taxes without any additional interest increment. So thanks for that great update. I know there's a lot of people that are happy with that right now.
Yep. I should also add that, again, I think I mentioned this last time, but as a result of the interest rate changing, we want to make sure, I have created a form on our website. So if you go to townofbrighton.org/tax update, there is a form right at the top of that page where you can send in a request to get the updated balance due for your particular property. As I've been posting payments these last couple of weeks, it's been a challenge because a lot of the payments that came in have come in before the changes were available and announced. So a lot of fourth installments had come in and they all have the wrong amount paid. So, staff is gonna be writing out dozens and dozens, probably triple figures in refund checks over the course of the summer. And while it's not a significant amount of money for most folks, I mean, some businesses may have some higher amounts due, but even for them, it's not a tremendous amount of outlay ahead of time. It's money that we have to balance to the penny, so we've got to send all that money back to you before we can move on. So just wanted to make sure, if we can cut down on the number of payments that we have to send back. So that's why I've created that form.
Thanks, Dan. And that is the good news, that the amount due is actually a little bit less than what came out on your original tax bill, but that will help tremendously. Go to that webpage, you get the correct amount. You won't have to wait for a refund. You can pay the correct amount right up front. Thank you.
Yeah, and that link is on the news flash on the town's homepage, and as well, I've hit Twitter and the West Brighton Facebook group, the Brighton Neighbors Facebook group, and the New Brighton Neighbors Facebook group. I've posted on all of them during the meeting about said announcement.
Great, thanks. Matters of the town board.
Nothing further.
Then hearing none, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Dan, please call the roll.
Sorry, too many monitors. Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt, Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for this third Zoom meeting. We will be meeting again 3 weeks from tonight, May 13th, again at 7 p.m. here on our Zoom meeting, which will be broadcast live on Spectrum, cable channel 1303, and live streamed on the town YouTube page. Stay safe, everybody. Again, please follow those 3 rules. Stay home. Mask. Good evening, everybody. Good night.
Good night.